Hey everybody, Jimmy here from the sales stage. This week we've got Dave Kennett coming live to you from Replayz. We're going to cover off a slew of things. And let me say, for any of the sales reps out there who are looking to iron out some of their discovery skills, learn some tips, some additional processes, hone in on those skills. As we know, discovery is extremely important. Dave Kennett breaks it down wonderfully. We're going to talk through that. We're going to talk about the difference of living on a houseboat, living in an RV, right? And we're going to talk, a ton of stuff in and around sales coaching. So for you guys interested, tune in. Some great tips in here, and you guys are going to love it. Oh, we're selling all the products and we're telling prospects what we got. Yeah, we're selling the next phase. We'll use lots of buzzwords. It's the next big craze. Jimmy and Rava show. Welcome to the sales stage. Sales stage.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here for another episode of the Sales Stage. With us today, we have Dave Kennett, and I'm going to let him introduce himself in just a minute. But quick recap on last episodes, definitely check it out. We had Tyler Lassard. He's our chief video strategist here at Vidyard, and he was giving us some really great tips on what he sees other sales teams working on right now. Like this past year, everyone going virtual and trying to adjust their sales motions. And so it was really interesting to sort of hear about how other teams are tackling the fact that we're all working from home right now. So definitely check it out. But so excited for this episode. We have Dave Kennett from Replayz with us. So I'm going to let Dave introduce himself and then we'll get started.
Okay, this isn't awkward at all. And just so everyone knows, that you guys just threw this on me now, so I'm kind of coming up with it, but at least I know the history probably a bit better than you do. So let me do that. All right, here we go. So the third party introduction of Dave Kennett. All right. So today we've got Dave Kennett with us on the show. Super excited to have Dave, who his company, Replayz, is actually a sales training company that's partnered with Vidyard and been training our team for a number of almost a year and a half now. Anyway, Dave is someone who's been in sales his whole life and sales leadership for the last 15 years, and specifically in tech the last 10, and helping build startups. 2 years ago, he went out on his own and started a company called Replayz, which is an on-demand sales coaching company, and is super involved in the sales community with events like Replayz Live, which is American Idol for sales. And we know that Dave is absolutely super passionate about the sales discussion today. So we're looking forward to talking to him about all things sales. Welcome, Dave.
Oh my gosh, wow, above and beyond. That was great.
Yeah, he's good, and I'm personally super excited about this. I know Dave, we've known each other now for about a year and a half, I guess, right? So, and I love what Replayz does, and I want to get into that first before we get into really some of the deep discovery type conversations that we want to have. So, I'd love to know, and maybe it would be helpful for the audience too. You gave us a brief overview of Replayz. Maybe if we unpack that a bit, like, as you were thinking about this company, like how did this come to? I know you've got a natural passion for coaching, so maybe walk the audience through sort of how this company came about, and maybe how you got it kicked off and started.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where I wished that a company like Replayz existed when I was sales leader at my last tech company, and it's and where that came about is, as sales leaders, we all want to build a strong sales culture and a coaching culture. And how do we do that? Well, it starts with actually taking the time to invest with our team, not only side by side on sales calls and supporting in closing deals, but supporting in the development of our team. So actually listening to call reviews. So, you don't have to have, although we're big fans of them, like a gong or a chorus or what have you, but even just your recorded Zoom calls, or for people who are SDRs and maybe you're not, of course, using Zoom, using just the good old fashioned telephone, recording those calls as well. And so what we found was, I didn't have time to actually, nor did my team, to listen to our team sales calls because we were so busy ramping up quickly that we were just bringing on each new hire and getting them onboarded quickly. And thus our sort of OGs that have been around for a while weren't getting the attention for call reviews. And the other piece of it is you've got so many high growth tech companies where an individual contributor finds themselves in a team lead role and they're asked to do call reviews, but they shy away from it because they don't have a framework to coach to. So enter Replayz. That's where we started out with the idea that we've got a team of amazing coaches who haven't just like been doing sales coaching for 10 years. They're actually in day jobs as usually senior leaders with high growth tech companies selling every day themselves. And we're listening to recorded calls from high growth tech companies where we coach on how to deliver a more impactful discovery or more impactful demo. And this is at literally any kind of market segment, whether it be transactional, right up to enterprise, right? Where our customers are, as you mentioned, Vidyard and Outreach and IBM and UPS. And so when you sort of deconstruct, if you're asked our customers, okay, what's the value kind of Replayz? Like, why do we use them? It's, and without sounding pitchy, but I just want to answer your question. It's really that we free up the sales leaders' time to go out and crush deals with their team and do all the stuff that sales leaders do, while they still know that their team is consistently getting call reviews based on our 100 best practices, which is like, after watching literally thousands of these, we've distilled down, like, given the fact we have access to win rate data, like what are the top reps consistently doing? And we've learned what those things are. So we're going to be bringing those tips onto your show today to share with the listeners.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for myself, coming from like a sales training enablement background, like I love what you guys are doing with a mix of sales and tech and leveraging kind of what's out there to make this easy. I think the other piece too that I think is often overlooked when leveraging like a third party partner like Replayz, right, is visually the reps see an investment in them. And I think from an employee satisfaction, it's good to know and good to feel that the company is investing in something for the reps. And you're right, like, you know, when I was in a sales, you know, training role, as we approach the end of a quarter, as we approach the end of a month, the thing that always gets taken out of the calendar is the training piece, right? So I've always been an advocate that doesn't happen. It's constant, and you know, leveraging a company like Replayz certainly helps with that, right? Because you take on the ownership of that. So that's really cool. I would be curious. So like you said, your days, you've been a sales leader, you've led teams. Now you're kind of leading teams of coaches. I'd be, you know, curious from your perspective, what has Replayz and what you guys have been doing over the last few years taught you as a coach?
There's a lot of great stuff it's taught me as a coach. So, you know, we've learned a lot. I've personally learned a lot over the last couple of years about people's individual styles. And we all know that one of the secrets to being a great coach isn't just being vanilla and very generic. It's about understanding what the strengths and weaknesses are of that individual that we're coaching and what makes them tick and motivates them. And I think that's been highlighted with my coaches. So I just assume that everyone that comes to the table at our team is on top of their game, which they are. People often ask, okay, I see the price for your main coaches. What's the tier 2? I'm like, we don't have tier 2 coaches. We have like just really awesome coaches. Yeah, we have coaches that are better with enterprise versus transactional versus growth. But and so what was interesting is we've really tried to create it's coming from tech. It drove me crazy that I had an actual services company. And so I've tried to sort of take the best practices from tech and make a repeatable factory here. And I say that with all due respect to our whole team. I'm part of that factory, but it's like go to Starbucks in Toronto or Paris or Vancouver or Utah, anywhere in Utah, you're going to get a chai tea latte that smells the same, tastes the same ingredients. Well, same with a Replayz review. And so in order to do that, when we onboard coaches, we have them go through our masterclass and all our 100 best practices so they can learn that. But I want to make sure that everyone's consistent. So I have a QA team that are some of the Replayz coaches that have been around for a while, and they actually watch the coaches, ironically using Vidyard, they watch the coaches coach and give feedback to our coaches. And I didn't think that the coaches would like that. I thought they'd be like we index for people not having egos. So, but I did kind of think, oh, they'd be like, hey, why am I getting coached by another coach? Like, I know my stuff. So a surprise for me as a coach of the team, I learn a lot from them all the time, has been that a lot of my coaches are doing this because they love just helping people and love giving back. But I'm hearing from them now that they love what they've learned from their peers who are Replayz coaches. So that to me was like, oh wow, I'd love it. Like the fact that we've indexed for sort of the character of the people that we bring on, that they still want to continue their growth was a surprise. And so we're doubling down on the peer coaching within our coaches.
Very cool.
I'm just thinking about like the year I spent as a BDR manager here at Vidyard, and the one thing I always wanted to make time for, and every week I said like, okay, this is my goal for call coaching this week. And then just like things get in the way. And yes, it's a bit of a time management thing. And I'm sure there are sales managers out there that prioritize call coaching every single week. But I knew it would help my team the most to get some tactical tips on like how to improve even 1% their cold calls. But it just like always slipped. And so when I came into this AE role and I found out we were working with Replayz, I was so excited to start getting some coaching from, I mean, like Jimmy will coach our calls all the time. He'll listen to our calls, but it's nice to get like a third party, someone who's not at Vidyard, but is still a sales leader and can give you some really knowledgeable advice. So I love that third party aspect to it.
Thank you. And you know what? You're not alone. I'll bet like everyone assumes that other companies are doing this better, like, but they're not. Like, if I was going to throw a number at it, I'd say 95% of sales cultures out there, sales orgs within a tech company, are not doing call coaching in a consistent, predictable, meaningful way. So it's a huge opportunity for all of us as a sales community, and to be part of just helping bring people up is exciting for us.
For sure. And I know a big part of selling, and we'll get into the discovery call and discovery framework. And I mean, I think we all agree it's probably the most critical call that AEs take on as sales reps, right? Because this is where you're gathering the information to create a business case as to why your product is a good fit for the customer or not. Yep. So starting high level, Dave, what kind of methodology did you follow as a leader, and kind of what have you brought that in, or what have you brought that down now into helping other sales teams?
So I've got a background in a few methodologies, and so do our coaches. But where the Replayz best practices were really born was through, watching. So a lot of our customers have deployed Challenger or Miller Hyman or Sandler or Spin. And we're not a methodology. We're a list of best practices that sit on top of that. Everything from just basic housekeeping on lighting, camera angle, background, because video calls are still new to a lot of sales orgs, or they don't know they're not quite doing it right. They might have a dark room and they're looking down and they're eating while they're on there, which should be common sense not to do, or they're not even turning their video on, through to here's how to, really tell an impactful customer story. And here are the number of stories that we see the best reps are consistently doing in a 45-minute call, which happens to be 3 stories. And so it was informed through, yes, my background, which I happen to be, so more solution selling. I worked for a company called Acklands Granger, owned by W.W. Granger, back when I was there for 5 years. Early in my career, it was formative for me, like 2004 to 2009, I think it was, and got my first sort of jump into leadership there. And they happen to have a really good leadership team who really believed in a strong coaching culture. And that's where we use something called Professional Selling Skills, PSS, put on by Achieve Global, based out of Toronto, actually. And I think that was loosely based on Xerox's old methodology or spin, really. And so certainly exposure to way more methodologies as I progressed, but I think that was pretty foundational for me. And I think that's where at least my passion for sales coaching came.
Very cool.
I think to me, there's like 2 sets of and you kind of alluded to this before, but there's like the reps who are brand new, like a BDR who's just been promoted into an AE, and discovery calls are completely foreign to them. And then there's like the enterprise reps who have been maybe selling for 10 years, and maybe they have their process it's hard to kind of get out of. What are some like pieces of advice, or like the easiest things a brand new rep can do from a discovery perspective to like kick it up a bit, or get a little bit better at discoveries?
I think the first thing is practice. And I think it's okay to practice with your peers. And I know a lot of us are remote right now, but just to jump on a Zoom call with one of the more senior folks on the team and say, hey, can we run through a role play of discovery? I'm going to do it, and I'd like you to give me feedback afterwards. I think that will bring a person up very, very quickly. And I think the second thing is writing down those questions. I think we all, it's kind of like you go to a restaurant, and we've all had the experience of the server writing something down, and we're like, and then we've had the experience of they take the order for 10 of us at the table and they didn't write a thing down. We're like, we know you're going to screw something up. And like 9 times out of 10, they do. A lot of the more senior reps, and I've definitely done this in the past as well, is we think, oh yeah, we got our discovery nailed, and we don't do enough pre-call planning and looking into the buyer persona, the specific questions we might ask that persona. We don't do enough into that. Maybe they're LinkedIn in terms of commonalities, but also the company that we're doing a discovery with, and recent news, etc. Then also writing down our standard discovery questions, right? And it feels amateurish to do that, but I do that before most calls still myself. And I think newer reps absolutely think to themselves, well, no, I'm gonna do this just like the server. I'm gonna do this without the little list in front of me and the pen and paper, and I think that's a mistake. So, and then I think the final thing I would say, I'm looking forward to getting deep into the discovery discussion, but the final thing I would say is really thinking through my mix of closed to open-end questions. Like, we will listen to a discovery call by a very senior rep who's been selling for 10 years, and they close 7-figure deals, and they'll have targets of 3 million a year, and we'll count, and we'll be like, oh my gosh, like in a 30-minute discovery, we heard 2 open-ended questions like that, and they still get the deal done somehow. But imagine how many deals don't get done. So those are some of the things I would say to a brand new account executive, whether they're coming from SDR or straight into the role.
Great advice too. And if we flip that, because I know you've mentioned it a couple times, like you're reviewing a ton of calls, right? And you guys have access to what some of the top performers are doing. I would love if maybe you could share, like, if you could pick out 1 or 2 things that the overperforming reps are doing consistently. What would you kind of narrow those things down when it comes to discovery?
Yeah, I would pull 2 threads there. One is around understanding impact of pain, and then the other is sharing impactful social proof or customer stories, even throughout the discovery. And so one of the questions, so I'm happy to dig into both those. Like the one thing we hear from reps who aren't doing enough discovery, we really want to understand the psychology behind it. Why aren't you doing more discovery? And what we hear, and I'm sure what some of the folks listening to this are thinking as well, is, well, I just don't want the prospect to feel like they're on the Inquisition stand, or I don't know how to make it conversational, or I don't want them to feel like I'm playing 20 questions, or no, I've got a good demo and I weave the questions into the demo. And all of those are mental models that we need to kick to the curb and replace with, our goal here is to be customer-centric, prospect-centric, make the most use of their time. And the best way to do that isn't to bore the hell out of them on a demo for 45 minutes on 5 things that we do really well that are our key differentiators. But let's understand in discovery, what are the 2 things, for example, that the prospect really cares about? And let's spend like 80% of the time on the demo on those 2 things and 20% on the other 3. And then it's like, well, how do we do that? And it's really understanding what matters to that prospect. Now, the framework I'm going to talk about here is definitely slightly different in an inbound generated lead than an outbound generated lead. Too many companies think it's the same muscle, and the 3 of us know it's not. You're working different muscles, and you're doing a slightly different framework for outbound. But let's just use inbound for now. In an inbound sort of discovery, I would really want to understand, A, why they reached out, B, understand the term we use all the time, of course, pain points, but why are, a lot of customers will just stop at that surface level, or a lot of reps will stop at that surface level pain. They won't pull the thread and ask layering questions to really understand what the impact of the pain is and then quantify it. So example being, if we're selling into marketers and marketers are trying to get more leads, we're like, what's important to you? More leads. Okay, great. Noted. On to the next question, as opposed to, oh, why is that? Oh, well, we had a rough quarter last quarter. Oh, tell me more about that. Well, we ended up rolling out a new product and we were trying a new program, and it turns out that it wasn't resonating, and thus the sales board didn't get as many leads as they were expecting, and now we're really under the gun to just crush it this next quarter. And it's like, oh, so what you're telling me is, there's actually been a financial impact because you don't have the velocity of leads you're looking for. And if you, what's the impact if you don't do that? Well, we've already been told by the CEO that this is something that has to be done. Interesting. So you hear how that, like that little role play I did with myself there, it's like we went so much deeper than just, oh, okay, you need more leads. Great. How many people do you have on your team? And it's like, the best, because as you said in the beginning, like the most important stage of sales, the sales process, we believe, is discovery. Because at the end of the call, when you say, hey, what are your thoughts? Are you leaning in? What do you think? If they're like, yeah, I don't know. What have you got to go back to them with, right? But if you've actually understood the impact of the pain and quantified that, and you say to me at the end of the call, yeah, I'm just not interested. Okay, I respect that. I just really love to understand it, because you mentioned that you didn't hit last quarter because you didn't have enough leads. This next quarter, your CEO's made it extremely clear that you need to. So if not us, what is that plan? And that's being a bit of a challenger, but in a respectful way. How the heck are you going to do that if you don't do a solid discovery? So we can talk about customer stories separately, but that's the first thing that I would say is the impact of the pain and the quantification of it.
For sure. And I would love you, even on the customer story piece, like what, moving on to that, like, a quick overview, like what in your opinion makes up a great customer story? Because I see a lot of reps who spend a lot of time focusing on memorizing the financial impact. They have 4x your leads. We gave them 4x this. We can 10x this. What makes up a great customer story?
Well, there's a few things. Let's start with what we see people not doing well. And there's three things. One is it's amazing to me on how many customer calls we listen to, or like sales rep discovery calls, where they actually don't use any customer stories. Like I'd say over 80%. And these are experienced reps too. That's number one. Number two, they'll mention a customer. They'll be like, oh yeah, IBM's a customer. Well, that's not a customer story. We call that an oblique customer reference. The third thing they'll do, and they'll think, oh yeah, Dave, I tell customer stories because at the end of my call, I say, oh, we have a great white paper on that. I'll send it to you. And I'm like, wait a sec. You had the prospects team right there. You're paid to be a really good communicator and listener. And you told them you're going to send them some like white paper that they're never going to open. Like, communicate with them. So those are the three things we see reps not doing. How to overcome that and tell an amazing customer story. Replayz calls that a customer story soundbite. And what that is, because sometimes when people tell customer stories, they'll take like 10 minutes, which could be like a third of your call in your discovery. That's too long. So we recommend 1 minute customer story soundbite. We call it the what, the so what, and the customer story. So the what is, I'll put it in the context of Replayz. It's probably easiest. I was to a little mini role play with myself again here. And that is, if I was pitching you on Replayz and you said, well, Dave, I just don't have time to call reviews. I'd be like, oh, so there's the pain point. And that's when I launch into my customer story. So once I hear pain, I'm going to use social proof and social credit. And I'm going to do it in a way that's quick, snappy, but appeals to that pain point. So I'm not just randomly bringing it in. And I would try and use a customer story in a similar industry of yours if I've got it, right? So that's part of the pre-call planning is of my customer story repository. I'm looking at, oh, I'm talking to Jimmy from Vidyard today, and BombBomb's a customer, so I'm going to tell him about how we help them, right? And so that's number one. So once you say, hey, Dave, I just don't have time to do call reviews, interesting. That's actually something we solve for. We actually do on-demand call coaching. That's the what. And you're like, well, who cares? What's on-demand? And it's like, so that's the so what is, and we do on-demand call coaching, which means that we can free up your time to actually help your team sell more? Well, we use a structured, repeatable, scalable process for your team to understand how to navigate more successfully through calls, which actually leads to a higher win rate. Okay, that's the so what. So now we're about 15 seconds in. So I've got 45 seconds more, if we keep this all to a minute, to tell my customer story. And Jimmy, that reminds me of actually BombBomb. Are you familiar with them? They're in your space, right? Yeah.
Love that company. Thanks for bringing them up.
I'll bet. So they came to us, Jimmy, and hey, we want an objective show. You got an objective show. There we go. No, they came to us with a similar, and of course this is fictional, I'm making it up, right? But they came to us with a similar challenge about a year ago where they didn't have time to do call reviews. And we jumped in and did call reviews with them. And fast forward to today, every single, and again, this is fictional, they're not a customer of ours, but every person on their team receives a call review every 2 to 3 weeks, and their win rate has gone up by about 3% in the very first quarter that we deployed this. The reps are feeling more confident, and they're feeling like a lot more valued in this remote world that they're being invested in. Boom. That's 1 minute. The what, the so what, the customer story, and the customer story is, let's find something similar to your space. Let's to give it credibility, let's give it a name, right? Let's not just say there's a company, because your point earlier, Jimmy, like a lot of people will say, oh yeah, I 4X this. Well, we see customers or reps all the time telling unrealistic stories where the prospect must go, yeah, that's BS, right? So I'm giving you a name. I might even say, and we're working with Harry over there at BombBomb, and I don't know if there's a Harry over there or not, but if they were a customer and we were working with Harry, I would call that out, right? When I tell people we work with Vidyard, I say, and we work with Jimmy, I say that. They can go look on LinkedIn. And then if I've asked your permission to actually share the results, then I would share the results with them in a meaningful way. And so that social proof, that social credit is just so big. So that's how we think about customer stories.
Awesome.
I think just like touching back on the first piece, and what was the first piece? Not customer stories.
Around really understanding the impact, all right, of the. I'm glad I'm so memorable. That's good.
I think she also missed the note that she should have taken about taking the notes.
Oh, there you go. Boom. I love it.
I'm not taking any notes. I'm just going to freestyle this. No, I really like that piece because, like you said, like having something to go back to and say, well, like, what are you going to do about X? But something else, and I actually got this from a Replayz coach, is that another reason that you're doing a discovery call is you're trying to like organize the chaos that's in that prospect's head, because they don't necessarily have everything so clarified and laid out and what their problem is and what the solutions are. And so talking through this and being able to get to this is the impact, this is the pain you're feeling, it can be enlightening for them too. And then you're getting them more bought into like having to fix this issue. So I think that is the part where, whether you're a new rep or you're a tenured rep, that getting deep into pain and really asking those like deeper questions around pain and not stopping at that first thing you hear, that's something I think everyone can work on forever. Because it's the hardest part, I find.
A lot of reps find that, and I can see why, right? Because when we hear from reps all the time, well, Dave, how do I make it conversational and not feel like we're playing 20 questions? And it's actually, customer stories are a great way to make it conversational, where there's a give take, right? Like our North Star at Replayz is to really help our customers understand that when you look at how what a positive outcome of a prospect call should look like, it's you've understood pain, impact of pain, you've created the picture of future state. Like if we use the marketing leads example I told you earlier, and I'm like, oh, we helped this company get X number of leads, and I understand you're here now, that delta, right, difference between where their current state and future state, and you want to educate them on what's going on out there in the industry, and maybe through benchmarks of what you've got from your own data, so that when that prospect leaves the call, they actually feel like, wow, I learned so much, I would have paid for that call. That's our North Star. So I think education is part of it. So my point is, that doesn't just come at the demo. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'll share all that stuff in the demo. Well, if you're doing a give and take in your discovery, and I've asked you like 5 questions in a row, I might pause and be like, that's really interesting. We see the same thing. In fact, you look at our internal benchmarks, most of our customers struggled with that on day one. But those that have been with us for like 8 months now, they've actually improved by about 4 percentage points. And then, you're subtly selling while educating, and it's a give and take. And so we find that that's a great way to make it conversational. And one other way, just like we've got multiple sort of tricks there, not tricks, actually, I hate using that term, processes, repeatable processes to use. And that is, if you can feel like they're kind of checking out a little bit during your discovery, which again is why it's so important we try and get them on video, is we can say, I really appreciate you bearing with me here. I know I've been asking you questions for like 10 minutes. I just have 3 or 4 more questions, if that's okay, because then you state the value. Because when we get to the demo, like, I just don't want to give you the same old demo, right? That's boring for you. I just want to take whatever it is we've got that's interesting to you and really highlight that. So if it's okay, I just got a couple more questions. Who's going to say no to that, right? So those are some aspects of our Replayz method, best practices and masterclass that we highly recommend.
Awesome. And on the timing piece, I know like we've got time for a few more questions, and then we'll get into kind of like a fun game. And I think we probably could have spent at least another 20 minutes, if not an hour, kind of going through discovery calls, because there's just so much to talk about in these little nuances of how to ask questions. And a big part is active listening too, which I think is often overlooked. To switch gears slightly, I would be curious from you. So you talk to a ton of sales teams, ton of sales reps. What's some of the cool sales tech that you've seen out there? What's hot? What are the kids calling fire emojis? Do the kids call Ravo, like you're the only hip one around here? Like the kids call things fire
I think
emojis?
like over the last 2 or 3 years, I cut the hip off. I don't know what's going on anymore.
I try and play it cool like a hip dad, but I would love to hear from you, Dave. Like what's kind of some of the sales tech that's caught your eye lately?
Yeah, well, here's one. I don't know if it's sales tech, but one thing I love is for those of you that are like me and you've got a million tabs open all the time, and you're jumping onto a screen share, and suddenly there's your Facebook and your LinkedIn and all that. What I love is I just go in and I've got this Chrome extension called OneTab, and I hit that and it takes everything that I have on my tabs and puts it into one cloud-based little area that's now not burning cycles on my machine, and it's also not in the face of our customers, because of course the best practice is make sure you're not distracting the prospect with all this stuff on your screen. So I'm definitely not the it was one of those hip young folks who got me onto that, to be frank, and that one's been a lifesaver for me. And we love, we love, let me just think, there's a DocSend is something we like using. So when we're sending out documents and people can view it, and we kind of get a sense as to engagement with those things. And then of course we love Outreach. So we're big believers and users of power users of Outreach.
I think we call that,
of course, too.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think we call those tab monsters. I'm definitely a tab monster at Vidjar, because I have like 3 different tabs with subset of tabs going, and my computer
like causes people anxiety.
It's just revving. It does. I remember there was a guy that worked with us for a while. Awesome dude. His name was Carl, and Carl was like that too. That guy had a ton of tabs open all the time. I think he went through like 3 laptops when we were working together, which is hilarious.
I think OneTab is also, I think that is the tool that you can also, like, if you have the same tabs for demos, like 5 or 6 tabs that you need open, I think you can use OneTab to like always have those. You could just open it up and they all open up all at once. Because I know I still like open each Salesforce, like all my examples, but I think you can use that to just have all your demo tabs.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know if I can share a screen here, can I? Yeah, can I share something with you real quick?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
What's funny is you're going to see a bunch of my tabs open, but whatever. So we did Replayz Live, which is American Idol for Sales. We have high growth tech companies come and pitch, and we had Thinkific on there, and MindTickle, and Outreach, and of course we had Josh from Vidyard. And one of the we had coaches like Josh Braun and Scott Leese and Sam McKenna and Scott Barker, and one of the coachings that we gave afterwards in front of this live audience was about tabs. Let me play this for you. It's actually pretty funny. I can't remember if this was Josh or not, but here, have a look.
So let me share my screen here.
Oh, it is.
You guys all see my screen okay? Okay.
this is my own nitpicky thing, but like, I think you have like 5,632 tabs open, and that gives me so much anxiety. And it also distracts me because I tried to read every single one of them to see what you're up to, and like if you're on ESPN or Facebook, whatever, like I'm trying to figure out who you are. And there's no reason for that. So I would close all of those tabs.
Anyway, so that was your very own Josh who was getting the feedback there from Scott. But I just love that little clip because it happens to all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. It's good to know that there's other tab monsters in Vidyard that are listening away. So it's great.
I don't think he is anymore, though. My guess is he isn't anymore.
I bet he's not. No. That's awesome. Are we ready to get into Would You Rather, Jimmy?
I think that's great timing for it.
All right.
And I want you to start too.
Oh, okay.
I feel lately I've just been so excited and I just steal all these questions. So I'm hogging the airtime. So
you don't. I think if you go back, I always ask you to ask them. So that's okay. Okay, this is the toughest part, Dave. We're gonna ask you, I think it's 5 questions. Would you rather? There's definitely a right answer and a wrong answer. Okay, so starting with 1. Would you rather live 200 years and although look very healthy for 200 years old your whole life? Oh, what? Jimmy.
It's supposed to be, would you rather live for 200 years? No,
I'm gonna take a moment to explain why I get Jimmy to read these. It's because Jimmy writes them and I can't read them.
Oh my.
Jimmy's looking great. Tab monster, terrible grammar. Like, it's supposed to be, though, would you rather live to be 200 years old? Yeah, would you rather live to be 200 years old? And although you'll be very healthy, you're going to have to look like you're 200 years old your whole life.
Gotcha.
Or, and then I'll let you finish it.
Okay, now I got this last part. Or look 25. Ridiculous. And live to 70.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to go with the 200 as long as I can actually go out and do stuff like golf and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yep. Who cares how you look?
Yeah. So I guess that means I would be married to a 200-year-old or dating a 200-year-old right from the age of 20, which sounds just awesome. But whatever.
Okay, here's the next one. Jimmy, you can ask it.
Okay, this is another very thought-provoking question here.
Yeah.
Would you rather get credit for inventing a spoon or a fork if utensils didn't exist?
Man, these questions Rava comes up with, Jimmy, hey? I
know. She's creative.
I tell you.
She likes to think outside the box.
Yeah, just outside. Completely out to sea.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with fork. Much more no, spoon.
I was gonna say spoon too. Yeah.
Yeah, because soup and all that, like
it's very cool.
Yeah, spoon.
Whoever came up with it, smart.
Who knows though? Like if they haven't been invented yet, like a fork could probably help you hunt more than a spoon could.
Oh,
unless you like wiggle the spoon really fast so the metal gets hot and then you can try to burn something.
But if I'm going to be 200 years old and I'm going to be kind of taking that spoon, I'd just rather have a spoon that I can eat my soup with, right?
Safer.
Yeah, exactly. Smart play.
Yeah. All right. If you are about to be inserted onto the Hollywood scene, would you rather join as an A-list actor or an A-list director?
Actor, 100%.
There you go. Likes the spotlight.
That was easy.
Boom.
That was easy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
This is a good one for you. And I think I know the answer, but I'm not going to say it. So would you rather have the ability to play one sport for the rest of your life, but you can't watch any other sports or live events? So you can only play that single sport. Or would you rather be able to watch any live sporting event ever, but not play a single sport?
Oh, that's just a no-brainer for me. I love playing sports, and I actually don't enjoy, aside from the Masters and maybe like the odd playoff or Super Bowl or what have you, I don't have time to watch sports. So playing one sport over watching all, 100%. Is
that what you thought,
That was
Jimmy?
my guess too. Yep, 100%.
What would you both do on that one?
I'd go to bed. I'd go knit a sweater. I don't need to do either of these things.
Yeah, I'd have to think long and hard about that because, I mean, to be honest, I don't watch TV. The only TV that my wife and I watch that I watch and my wife has to watch now is sports, because I can't get into TV shows. So I have to watch live sports. That being said, like life without golf, I don't know if I could do that. So I probably have to play the sport.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. 100%.
Okay, here's the last one. Would you rather have a houseboat or an RV?
A houseboat. Yeah.
Me too.
I love the water. I love the ocean. Yeah. How about you as well, Reva? And you can knit on the houseboat.
Yeah, I'd be down with that. I actually, last week, Brian, what's his last name? Our new VP of product, Jimmy. Brian. Well, so we have these weekly like management updates at Vidyard videos, and he did the management update, and he was coming to us from his houseboat, I think. And
right.
I was like,
yeah, he zoomed in on it on Google Earth, like right down
to
like
this
where
is where I'm
actually,
coming to you from. I was like, okay.
That's the life. Oh, by the way, just for people listening, I feel like I have to say this. When I just said, yeah, Ray, but you could just knit on that houseboat, and like Jimmy and I are talking about, like, the context is before we jumped on the show, Ray was like, oh, I don't have any interest in sports. I love knitting. So I just want everyone, if they didn't get that context, I'd look like a real ass right now. What about you? What about you, Jimmy?
What about you, Jimmy?
Yeah, I think I'd have to go the RV route.
Yeah. What? Come on. That's because you live by lakes. You don't live by ocean. If you lived in Vancouver like we did, I think you'd be a houseboat guy.
It's a tough choice, but I think of like the RV lifestyle, and I'll put a little context around it. So my best friend, his dad loved or still loves like taking out this RV. So he, as his retirement gift to himself, he bought this like unbelievable RV. Like we're talking like has like multiple bedrooms, like full kitchen, like higher end backsplash than I have in my house. Like this thing was sick. And so I've been in it before, and just the thought of like not really having a permanent address and just kind of driving, like if I wanted to go by the water, I could easily go park by the beach, and I could also park in like Walmart parking lots across the state, stay there for free.
That sounds great.
You know,
wow,
I'm a pretty classy guy, so
retirement with Jimmy's going to be great.
yeah.
I want your life. See it Walmart. That's awesome. No, that makes sense, man. There's something about the open road, right? I get that. I get that.
For sure. Cool. Well, I know we're pretty much at time here. So Dave, really appreciate you coming on. I think that was very insightful, and really actually quite enjoyed the would you rather questions as well. So thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, that was fun. Thanks a ton for having me. I really enjoyed it. And one thing I'll say is for the folks that are wanting to dive more into discovery, for your group, we'll give them 50% off our masterclass. Just hit me up on LinkedIn, Dave Kennett, Replayz, and reference Vidyard, and we will give you half off of our masterclass, which is like full video library of our 100 best practices, which Vidyard actually all has access to as well.
Yeah, I use my professional development to that. I am so excited. I've like started to work on it, but I highly recommend to anyone listening. It's a like really awesome masterclass.
Thanks, Reva. Appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, you guys. I really appreciate you having me on.